All right. Hey guys, welcome back to the Underground. This is Interactive Chat Volume 54. That's right. We are well on our way to the big 100 and for episodes. My name is AJ. This is, of course, our weekly, every single Thursday, rain or shine, Solo Man podcast, where we talk about everything: news, reviews, discussions, announcements, predictions, analysis, all the things PSVR2 related. What is up, guys? Merry belated Christmas. I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas, and welcome to all of those who are new PlayStation VR2 owners. If you got a PSVR2 for Christmas, congratulations, first and foremost. And I recommend, if it's your first time playing VR, maybe take it easy. Maybe not start with Resident Evil Village, although that is a must play eventually. Maybe take it slow. Ease yourself into things. Pick up a nice book like Moss and read it. Moss, book 1 and 2 are great to start with. I'm sure the chat will have some other recommendations, but I recommend starting out with stuff like Moss and maybe some Res Infinite. Try out that eye tracking. There's a lot of things you want to ease yourself into before you get into hardcore stuff and make yourself sick. But you know what? Screw it. You could also just jump right into Resident Evil Village and have the time of your life. What is up? This is Interactive Chat, where I like to interact with you guys. LC2552 Beats, what's up, man? Blue Tree, the Underground Game Cat Elite Name Squad in the house. This one. Salvador, my dude. Welcome, man. All you are is history. Scott, the PSVR Game Cat for Life, Living Legend. Bambino Ramos, love you too, homie. Says just saying hi and hope things have been going well. They've been going great, my friend. Twitcher, the Deuce Juice Game Cat. Hello, you lovely peoples indeed. Hooked Worm, all of yous. Good to see you. Welcome to Interactive Chat Volume 54. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about today. We've got some interesting new articles that have popped up. We're going to basically cover a little bit of, PlayStation VR2, that's first year. I mean, technically, it hasn't even been a year yet, yes. But this is the first year that it's launched that's coming to an end. So we're going to do put a little bow tie on the end of this year to kind of conclude things. And then we're going to talk about what to look forward to with 2024. That's right. We are just getting started with this bad thing. And we're going to talk about some things to look forward to and what we can possibly expect. What is up, Stingray? Good to see you, man. Good to see all of you. Hope you've been out well. Hope you've been having good times out there. That's right. I've got the Wanderer trailer playing. Speaking of 2024, one of the greatest VR games I've ever played is getting a super high remaster for our lovely shiny new headsets. But guys, man, Nihilist Ryan, my metal feline friend, this episode might be a little bit different, you guys. Just a warning. I know I usually just blast through news and conversations and whatever. Might do a little bit laid back, since this is the last interactive chat of 2023 to ever exist in all of mankind. So it's kind of a special one to me, man. It's been a really, really fun year. Obviously the big thing, it finally happened, man. It finally happened. I endured a lot. We all did when it came to PSVR, and lots of people doubting, telling us that, this was when VR was just getting a little bit more known, a little bit more popular, and it was very much VR is a gimmick. VR is like 3D TVs. The novelty wears off, and there'll never be a PSVR2. Well, lo and behold, as of February 22nd, 23rd, something like that, 2023, we did, my friends, we did get our PSVR2s, and it is a glorious piece of hardware, if I don't say so myself. But not everything has been perfect, of course. There's been plenty of ups and downs, and honestly, there's been a lot of similarities to uh, PlayStation VR2 as there was with PlayStation VR1, but there's definitely some huge differences. Um, and yeah, there's lots of things going on. So, I think a big difference this year is that when PlayStation VR1 came out, it was kind of like the cheapest, most accessible thing on the market, and it got tons of love because of it. You didn't have to go out all of a sudden, you didn't have to go out and buy um, a $2,000 PC to run a limited number of games. No, you could pay, what was it, like 450 bucks or something at the time. Came launched with a couple big titles. But now I think the big difference is probably, I mean, there's lots of differences now in comparing to the old times. There was no competition at that time. It was just PSVR and PC, and then shitty mobile phone cardboard stuff that looked like ass. So PSVR was in a pretty good place. Now there's definitely a lot more competition, and I will reiterate this: no matter who says what or who thinks what, competition is good. You want competition. You want companies competing for your dollars, and getting more and more aggressive. When it comes to PSVR and PSVR2, Sony is definitely not the most aggressive. They're very passive right now. They're very much just like, we'll just release, here's some awesome games. Here's some awesome games, and enjoy. And that's about the extent of their aggression. Meanwhile, you've got Xbox buying, Microsoft buying like studio after publisher after publisher. You've got Meta Quest aggressively pursuing developers, trying to really help push forward the innovation, and they're definitely marketing the hell out of that thing, because there's TV ads and like, a lot of people, if you ask them to go get a VR headset, like they don't even know if all they see is Quest 3 or Quest 2 or whatever. But there's a lot going on that, maybe enough people, the numbers aren't jumping up and down about. And that's just how good this headset actually is. It doesn't get really the credit that it deserves in many ways. There's a lot of criticisms too. Of course, there's a lot of critiques. I think every headset, regardless, is going to have critiques, but there's been a lot of speculations, a lot of analysis, kind of saying where the market is right now. And it's, of course, I'm going to classify it as speculation because we don't actually know, besides the numbers that Sony has given us, we don't actually know like solid numbers. It's not very black and white, which leads to a lot of speculation and a lot of people having to use market analysis to kind of make educated guesses. And I'd say there's a lot of people out there making educated guesses about where the market is at. And the educated guess right now is that it's as a whole, the whole entire VR market is somewhere around like the 20 to 25 million user player base. And now, to put it in perspective, like a single console, well, like the PlayStation 5, for example, which granted is one of the best selling consoles right now, is at 50 million. So that's combining all of VR over the past like 7 years or something. So it definitely is a smaller, more niche market. But it's going a lot better than some people will probably have you think, or people will probably advertise. But so let's go ahead and kick things off. I'm going to be, like I said, guys, this is going to be a little bit different of an episode. I really want to try. It's hard running this show and running and trying to have conversations while also trying to change videos like I'm doing right now, and also pay attention to the chat. There's a lot of things going on here, so I'm going to do my best to stay on target. But let's go ahead and kick things off with the launch of the PSVR2. GameCat Photo Notice says, niche. We are the knights that say niche. But anyways, guys, so it launched back in February, and you know, it seemed like it took an eternity to come out. I've voiced my opinion on some of the leadership changes that happened towards the end of last generation that I was typically not a fan of them, to put it lightly. I was not the biggest fan because I really liked what the last regime was doing, and I think a lot of the success of the PS5 stems from that last gen. It was a revolutionary time for gaming. It felt like, where just, you know, gaming was just on the up and up constantly, and this was coming off the heels of a disastrous PSVR2 launch that by the end of PS3 launch that was a disaster when it happened, and then over time came back to be a lot more successful. And then you had the PS4 generation, which was just like, I mean, that was definitely, I've never seen anything like that before. I hope to see it again. I think it's possible to see it again, but there's a lot of stuff going on right now, and I don't think we're going to see that again for quite some time. But as far as the PSVR2 launch went, we've actually got I've got some articles and stuff I'm going to reference here. So it is said, this comes from Sony themselves. This is not speculation. This is not market analysis. This is not educated guessing. This is Sony's straight up numbers that they shared with us in a presentation. I think it was like one of their shareholders meetings or something like that. But they talked about the launch of PSVR 2 and that within the first 6 weeks, they sold upward of around 600,000 headsets, which was an 8% increase from the PlayStation VR 1. Now, here's a couple things, though. So, if that was within the first 6 weeks, we're like 8-9 months later now, 10 months later now. You'd have to imagine they're well over the 1 million mark. Now, they haven't come out and shared numbers since. Maybe in the next shareholders, investors meeting or whatever, we will get some new numbers. But 6 weeks in, you've already sold 600,000 units. That's pretty damn good. And that's without any marketing. That's with like probably the most piss poor marketing that you could possibly have. That's when a time where people are still recovering from a global pandemic, where supply chain issues were still kind of around. They were just starting to clear up around that time, I think. And that's also 2 years after the launch of the PlayStation 5. But 600,000 units sold near launch. I think it's safe to say we're definitely over 1 million now. I would definitely bet money on that. It also released to really good reviews. Outlets, mainstream outlets like IGN, whether you like them or not, IGN is a huge outlet, rated it a 9 out of 10, with a lot of other outlets, I don't know, like Digital Foundry, a bunch of other places giving it really high praise, high scores, touting that, it's a fantastic piece of hardware. And I agree. I agree that it is a fantastic piece of hardware. I've mentioned this last week. It's kind of an interesting approach, for being a business minded regime, this regime that's currently on the way out the door. I don't think that they were really the smartest business wise, made the best decisions for PSVR 2. But on the plus side, we got something that is absolutely badass and is going to have a lot more longevity in the long run. Just similar to kind of how PSVR1 was, I think PSVR2 is also going to be a bit of a slow burn, a marathon, if you will. It's gonna, and it's kind of happening the same way, where, like, you know, I firmly believe that, you know, as the years pass and everything, while the narrative for some, I mean, for me, like, look, you really shouldn't let anybody else influence what you like or what you enjoy, or what you believe. And I'm a firm believer that the PSVR2 is the best headset out there, that it has the best games, it's already got the best library, that it also, on top of all this, has the most potential of anything. Now, but that being said, the VR market as a whole has taken a little bit of a step back. It was on fire. Like, I mean, PSVR2 came out, it was picking up speed, it was picking up pace. MetaQuest 2 came out, and it really got a huge boost. And then, like, 2 years later, things started to really slow down. And then now, another year later, well, almost 2 years, another 2 years, and things have kind of settled a little bit, and the market is not exploding. But as we saw with last gen, VR launches don't usually start off with a huge bang. They're not these overnight successes upon launch. They're usually, they take some time, that after that first year or two, and the same can kind of be said, PS5 aside, and maybe the PS4 aside, the same can be said about, like, regular consoles as well. They don't typically, it's pretty abnormal, like how the PS5 is performing, for it to just sell, you know, dozens of millions overnight. It's usually kind of a slow build up, and then as the library gets better, you know, a lot of people wait that first year. They let that first year get out of the way, so that there becomes price drops, there becomes more software available, and they get kind of the year one kinks worked out. But man, right out the gate though, I mean, the dream that we had, you know, for PlayStation VR2 is that, like, and this is still the dream, this, I will never stop dreaming of this, is like every console game gets a VR mode, or at least every compatible console game gets a VR mode. My thoughts have actually changed on that a little bit, and have expanded beyond just, you know, kind of converting everything to first person. I think that there's additional features, because while the headset's amazing, I do think it launched. I mean, it's not something I think, it's a fact. It launched with, like, no additional features. It plays games, and that's what it does. That's it. That's all you get. And I do think that was a little short-sighted on Sony's part, but that is something that can be adjusted in the long run, something that can be altered from the software side. So it's not something that I'm, like, you know, giving up hope as of yet, because that is something that can be added later. Things like, you know, different services, the 3D home environment, movie services, TV services, just being able to play things like being able to play flat screen games in VR from, like, a third person view, just like entering the world of those games. Well, that's not something I really even ever thought about or cared about much. I do think that is something that could actually potentially introduce a couple new people to VR in the long run. Just a cool side feature that people would really like. But yes, so we wanted AAA games. We wanted AAA first party games. We want big console quality games. And while not every game is like this, the good news is that we did get some ones, including what I've been rolling here on this side, and that is Gran Turismo 7. Woo! holy shit, you guys. I am still playing this game and it is still blowing my mind. I mean, it is something else. I mean, that's why we wanted something like this, where you take these existing games and converting them to VR. And again, I'll reiterate, it may not in the long run, 10, 20 years from now. Of course, Gran Turismo is kind of a separate example, but it may not work for every game to make every game better than if you were to have a built from the ground up AAA game or so, because obviously there's limitations sometimes. But this is a good example of a game where it's just like insane in VR. It is truly next level. The physics, the graphics. I saw somebody said something about the graphics. I completely disagree with you. The graphics in Gran Turismo 7 look phenomenal. And if they don't, you may need to get your eyes checked. But yeah, man. So we launched with Gran Turismo 7, which, by the way, I do think Sony kind of screwed up a little bit. They really could have led with that versus like announcing it at CES, which nobody freaking watches. Like I mean, maybe people will start to watch it more, but that's never been something that people watch for big announcements. And so like you really you saved your biggest title for the smallest stage that you were on. So it was really weird, but it's little decisions like that. I could nitpick all day, left and right. But we got things like Gran Turismo 7. We got things like Resident Evil Village. And man, I mean, having 2 AAA games right off the bat like that is a pretty big deal. And let's see, I thought I had I don't have a trailer for Resident Evil Village, so I'll just play the Resident Evil 4 one, because guess what? We just got Resident Evil 4. We got 2 Resi games in 1 year. But so as far as launch goes, I think it was okay. Obviously, it could have been much better marketing, better timing with certain things. But really, this generation of PlayStation has not been the most like transparent, communicative, kind of like, crowd pleasing stuff. They did have a good like first announcement of the PS5. But anyways, let's see here. But yeah, so the PSVR2, within all we know for fact is that within the first 6 weeks, it sold 600,000, somewhere around there. And in all honesty, I feel like I've said this before, but and I think I already even mentioned it earlier, but it was an interesting thing that they chose to not really go with like a cheap piece of hardware, that they really wanted to double down on the premium thing, premium high quality headset. And I think that reflects kind of why the numbers are not necessarily, mainstream levels just yet. It's funny. We can always go back and quote Sean Layden, who was a fantastic CEO, and really was in tune with the fans, in tune with the community, as is like Shuhei Yoshida, which is why both these guys are so heavily loved. But he said, people want VR 5.0, and that's kind of the slow burn process, is that we have to kind of wait for iterations. Last gen, it felt very much like the Wild Wild West, where there was no standardization of features. There was no we didn't have any standards. It was just developers just throwing shit at the wall and seeing what would stick. And now, Gen 2, now we've got a couple more features and things that we have certain standards that have kind of evolved into, and there's certain expectations, and I think people were still kind of expecting 5.0, and it didn't quite hit 5.0, and so it's just they kind of assumed the market was going to be a little bit bigger by now, and that's not my words. That actually, we'll go ahead and reference this article. There was an interesting article that came up from Eric Lempel, who, by the way, is a possible candidate for being the next CEO and replacing Jim Ryan. But they had this article here. This is a recent thing. Sony exec calls PlayStation VR2 a challenging category. This is from Mixed News. They said, in a recent interview, SIE's head of global business described PlayStation VR2 as a challenging category. Do I have this up? Okay. Sony announced a new sales milestone on Wednesday. PlayStation 5 has sold 50 million units since its launch roughly 3 years ago. But while the PS5 is currently flying high and beating the competition in terms of sales and revenue, surprisingly little is being said about the PlayStation VR2. In an interview with the Financial Times, Eric Lempel, SIE's head of global business, was asked about the VR system. Quote, "It's a bit of a challenging category right now," Lempel said. Even though the company's own sales are going well, important to note there, according to Lempel, Sony would remain committed to VR products, but the executive added, "I think there was a higher expectation generally for what VR would do to gaming." A slow burn for PlayStation VR2. In October, Lempel described the VR category as important to us, but admitted that unlike PS5, it was not Sony's core proposition this season. Lempel is being touted as a candidate to become the next PlayStation CEO, as Jim Ryan will step down in March 2024. PlayStation VR2 was released in February and sold 600,000 units in its first 6 weeks, slightly outperforming the original, which was released in October 2016. Sony failed to break the 1 million mark in the following holiday season. After several price cuts, the device reached 2 million sales in December of 2017. They're talking about PSVR1 still. In total, Sony has sold more than 5 million units. It will be interesting to see if Sony will announce sales figures for the PlayStation VR2 after this holiday season. Anything else would be a troubling sign for the VR system. Let's see here. So yeah, and again, you know, so the Eric Lempel, what was he? The SIE's business, SIE's head of global business. So he did say that sales are going well, despite what everyone out there, the mainstream media, whatever, they will dunk on PSVR2. And it was like this with PSVR1, by the way, guys. It was totally just, PSVR was just always getting torn apart. I don't know where this hate from PSVR for PSVR comes from. But I can tell you that like at least half of it's all bullshit. I think at the time it was, you know, VR was emerging and people were just trying to capitalize on, you know, the whole negative VR is a gimmick, VR is a fad thing. And at that time, it was really just PSVR. So that was the one that fell into the media's crosshairs. And so it started with that. Now we're in Gen 2. Now PSVR2's got some competition. You've got Meta, you know, also releasing a headset. And so now you've got the doom and gloomers from before, and you've got the Meta console war idiots, and all these people, Meta themselves even paying for influencers and stuff to shit on that. And then you got the echo chambers going around, a bunch of idiots. The comments that I see sometimes, you guys, are absolutely ridiculous. People saying like PSVR2 is outdated because it has Fresnel lens. You're a fucking moron. You know, stuff like that. Like that's an instant ban on my channel, because like, quite frankly, I don't have time to even try to argue with you why you're an idiot. And you won't even understand anyways. Like there are critiques, there are criticisms. I myself am critical on several different things with PlayStation VR2. But this is where the internet fucked up. This is where the internet messed up bad. and the media outlets and everything, they fail to recognize the good that it does. They fail to recognize the good that Sony has done for this thing. I mean, right now, it's only Meta, it's only Sony. You know, there's the Pico, I guess, maybe. There's like the dream of, or the hopes and dreams of the Apple VR, whatever that's going to be. I think they're blowing smoke up Apple's ass, though. I don't know how special that thing's going to be. I hope it's good. I hope it becomes a mainstream product, but I just don't see that. I see Sony and I see Meta leading the charge here, and they really, guys, no matter which one is your favorite, you need to root for both of them because this is really all that VR has for growth right now. And if you care about VR, you want to support, or at least, you know, not shit on both of these. Anytime I've ever bashed Meta or whatever, really just comes from it comes from being just this endless barrage of just like dumbass comments that drive me nuts. And then it just gets to me to the point to where I snap, and then it makes me look bad. But really, I have nothing against the headset. I like the headset even. I have a Quest 2, and I've always said I think competition is good. But yeah, the probably the worst thing to come out of this year, the biggest L of this year, is the media, the toxic player bases, the echo chambers that don't know what the fuck they're talking about, but will just hear something and have these secondhand opinions that are totally trash. That is easily the worst thing to come out this year, and that is the worst thing to happen to the VR scene. And it stems from some of the console warring that happened before that. And it's just like, these are like just the worst, man. And I don't even want to get into it too much because honestly, like, I feel really good about where we're at. And I feel really good about the future. But I did have to point that out, that these people will be the fall of video games entirely. I guarantee it. They do nothing. They do nothing positive for the community. But anyways, I digress here. All right, guys. So Steve IRA says the Pico 4 is such a nice headset. I know nothing about it, to be honest with you. But yeah, man. So let's run through some of the wins and losses of PlayStation VR 2 before we get into like what to expect for for 2024. Guys, 2024 is right around the corner, and I don't know if you're aware, but we're going to be kicking the year off with some badass games, and there's going to be more even coming down the pipeline. But what up, Fenner? What up, Dan Kiefer? My boy! Old Darth, good to see you guys. Yeah, I mean, I'll get into some other things business-wise and competition-wise between the other things, but really I want to get into some of the wins and losses. The wins! Let's start with the wins. Like I said, some of the games, man, the AAA games, again, you've got these dingleberries that go out there, and these are people that actually have a pretty position of power in the gaming community. I don't think anybody actually really takes them super serious. Instead, they just kind of agree with them when they say what they want to hear. But yeah, there's been comments such as PSVR2 has no games, and that is far from the truth, because PSVR2 actually has AAA games, and like I said before, it has the best fucking library. It reminds me of the PSVR1, where while PSVR1 was like, you know, at launch and was going, people said, oh, it doesn't have any games. VR has no games. And then all of a sudden, it was like a switch was flipped overnight. And then all of a sudden, by the end of the generation, people are like, oh yeah, PSVR absolutely has the best library of games, no doubt about it. And I was like, where the fuck were you people the entire 5 years where people were saying that it didn't? It's crazy, man. Real quick, no, it's Ryan. Thank you so much for the support, my friend. Let me get some more. Let me get some more trailers here. No, it's Ryan with the donation. Thank you for the support, my friend. As always, thank you all for your support. These lovely people down here, everyone watching. Happy late Christmas and Happy New Year to you. Exciting times await. Says Sony needs more PSVR warriors like yourself, AJ. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I mean, all of you. Luckily I've got all of you with me, but yeah, man. And like, my thing is like, I loved PlayStation before VR came out, and I just wanted to play all my, like, I loved PlayStation, but I got kind of tired of it. I just wanted to play all my PlayStation games in VR moving forward. That's what I wanted to do. I need new gameplay. It's like I've played the same gameplay styles for 30 years. I don't need more of the same with just better graphics. Like, I need something that feels different. And VR is the thing that made me, like, it gave me a new gameplay experience, actually getting to like learn gameplay elements again. It's freaking awesome, man. But oh shit, what the hell was I saying? I totally lost my train of thought. Anyways, the games. We got launched with some amazing games at launch. From AAA, like Gran Turismo 7, which, by the way, I cannot stress enough, is just absolutely breathtaking still to this day. Resident Evil Village, which actually was like my most anticipated game. They freaking aced Resident Evil Village. I mean, if there is one example of what the dream scenario is, Resident Evil Village and maybe Gran Turismo are those examples, along with some others, at least at launch. What I like about Resident Evil Village is it uses the orb controllers, with the haptics, adaptive triggers, and force and feedback and everything. That comes in the box when you get a PSVR2. For Gran Turismo 7, it's not as accessible, and because you really, to have the best experience with that, you need a racing rig, which it's absolutely worth it, in my opinion. Absolutely, 110%. You should have bought one yesterday, worth it. But it is more expensive. I understand not everybody has the budget for it. It may not be accessible to people. I've seen videos over this holiday season, even like, now, 3 years after the launch of PS5, people breaking down in tears because they've been saving up so many years, just to get a PS5 itself. Now, something like VR and a racing rig is out of the question for them. So I like the fact that Village uses the orb controllers, and doesn't require anything else. That's it. If you include the wheel, though, I would say probably Gran Turismo 7 is superior. But you're talking about two 10 out of 10 games. I need to change all my reviews. Those are two 10 out of 10s. But yeah, so the games have been pretty phenomenal, from those two. And then this is where, and then there was like a bunch of great indie titles. Pavlov was a huge surprise for me. Really, I think still the best multiplayer shooter on the platform. Pavlov was such a huge surprise, how good it looked, how fun it was, the different modes, the social things. Games that I've been looking forward to for so long, like Demeo. I freaking love Demeo so much. There were several other games as well. Like, I wish I could, I really would love to just go off and name every single game, but I can do that later. But then where the kind of the drawback was there was some games that launched and they weren't really of the quality that we were hoping just yet. Things like No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky is one of my favorite games of all time, but it was a horrible disappointment at launch with the state that it was in visually. And we actually learned kind of why that was. The headset has something that no other headset has, no other mainstream headset, which is eye tracking. Again, just the way Sony innovated with this was definitely, they innovated the best ways with the hardware. From the software side, they could definitely do more. And the good thing is that you can still enhance the software side post launch. The hardware, you can launch another reiteration of the headset, but you don't really want to do that. You want everything to be ready. And like I said, my favorite thing probably about PSVR2 is how future-proofed it is. That thing, the PSVR2 has long legs. I got a good 7 years, 7 years out of PSVR1 that used 10-year-old Move controllers. Oh man. Not sure, Brondo. Thank you for the donation. Says, appreciate your dedication and enthusiasm. Don't ever stop AJing the fuck out of 20 questions. I don't think I could ever stop AJing the fuck out of anything if I tried. Not sure, Brondo. It's what plants crave. But yeah, I love how future-proof this headset is. So in terms of design, the eye tracking, the fovea, people will shit and nitpick on anything. Again, I'm not trying to go too far into this because I don't really want to give any credibility to, or shine any light on thing. But as an example, you hear people talk about, the wire, or needing a PS5, or the lenses, or I don't know, the mirror, or the reprojection. Nobody talks about how fucking good, it can look with eye tracking and foveated rendering, how good and amazing and next gen, and how no other controllers or no other headsets have the headset vibration, have adaptive triggers, have haptics in the controllers, have the eye tracking. Nobody talks about this stuff, only the negative. But these are huge W's, huge wins to have in the headset. The drawback is that it did make the headset a little bit more expensive, but on the plus side, again, it makes the headset also a lot more future-proofed, which is really, really nice. These features are legitimately awesome. Like, they're so good. They're really, whenever a game nails like perfect haptics, perfect adaptive triggers, the eye tracking, like in No Man's Sky stuff, you've seen what it's capable of, and we're still just in the beginning. We're going to bring it over to, and on that note, we're going to bring it over to another article that recently published. And it is, some developers have shed some insights as to, the launch of the PSVR2 and trying to take advantage of these features and having very limited time. And that is something that, we by now are pretty well aware that, some of these games that didn't launch, some of the games that have already come out, they didn't launch with eye tracking. They didn't launch looking as good as they could have. Stuff like Switchback, No Man's Sky, and then they got implemented after, and then you see the difference that it makes. The timing was not the best in terms of these. But let's take a look at this article. This article has the dumbest name ever. And again, I'm not even going to read the article of the name. I shouldn't even really credit this place, but they're called Inverse. But it is an interesting discussion here. Clickbait title aside, what the article actually talks about is some of the struggles that developers faced with trying to take advantage of the hardware to the fullest and at the same time meeting their expectations of quality, and then having some struggles. A lot of this stuff, despite this article title kind of pointing at PlayStation VR2 as part of the problem, the reality is the timing of these launches and them not choosing to delay the games and fixing them after, and then also some issues with Unity seem to have become a big issue. But here we go. Eddie Torres, creative director at Mixed Realms, was faced with a hard choice. Despite her team's intentions, the PlayStation VR2 version of Hellsweeper, a frenetic roguelike shooter, would not have the graphical fidelity of its Steam counterpart. When Sony first announced the PSVR2, Mixed Realms was excited about what the headset's hardware specs would allow them to achieve. But towards the end of production, which spanned over 3.5 years, Torres tells Inverse an unexpected barrier prevented them from fulfilling that dream. We were left with this choice, like, oh my God, are we going to unravel everything and risk breaking everything? Foveated rendering was the main culprit. The feature uses the headset's eye tracking to display a sharp image where the player is looking while lowering the resolution elsewhere on the screen to preserve processing power. Mixed Realms received a dev kit for Sony's new headset in September of 2022 and spent the first few months tackling early performance issues. Closer to launch, it became clear that they would not be able to meet performance expectations without foveated rendering. But it was too late. The standard render pipeline offered by Unity, a video game engine popular with small studios, didn't support it. Unity's universal render pipeline, which would later support features like foveated rendering, wasn't stable when Hellsweeper started development. So, I mean, just going by this, so back then when there were some developers talking about this, it does seem like there was some truth to the matter about Unity having some issues not supporting the dynamic foveated rendering originally. It does sound like that they've added it now, which is actually pretty good news, and I'm glad to hear that. But yeah, it does seem like that was a Unity problem, and it's not necessarily it's not like a PlayStation. I mean, yes, it has to do with PlayStation VR, but Unity's universal render pipeline, which they, said they advertised at the GDC leading up to launch, they didn't say that, oh, this was going to be later available later. But they also said that it started development. They started development on this game for the PlayStation VR2 in September 2022. So around that time, it was still not there. By then, Mixed Realms was close to the finish line for PSVR2, Steam, and Meta. Since Hellsweeper supports co-op with crossplay, all three versions largely share the same code, so making a drastic change in one would affect all of them. Alternatively, delaying the PSVR2 version meant compromising the crossplay feature that the studio spent years working on. Ultimately, the team went ahead with a simultaneous release on September 21st, sharing the roadmap shortly after detailing plans to move the project to the universal render pipeline after launch. It was one of those cases where if we had a magic ball and somebody had told us, hey, in 3.5 years from now, there's going to be this amazing feature that's going to make your game more performance friendly, we would have made a different choice, Torres said. This is one example of how the PlayStation VR2 is both directly and indirectly holding video game developers back. First party, the way they word this article, I swear, seriously, fuck you, Inverse. First party releases such as Resident Evil Village VR and Horizon Call of the Mountain showcased early promise in the launch lineup back on February 22nd, 2023. Since then, over 130 games have become available for PSVR2, from ports to new experiences, but not all studios were safe from obstacles along the way. Inverse spoke to the developers behind Light Brigade, Hellsweeper, Paper Beast, Among Us VR, and Vampire the Masquerade Justice about experimenting with the capabilities of PSVR2 and how Unity is holding projects back. That's more like it. And the trials and tribulations of being approved by Sony. So this article basically just goes on, and it's basically more of the same. I mean, it's actually a pretty cool article with some of the stuff they talk about, but essentially just, when you plan years ahead in development and then the headset releases much later, I mean, yeah, you can't predict these things. There's no way of kind of planning for these things when you're not within Sony or a first party studio or, have been given these things. But here's the good thing. A lot of these issues we've seen have been corrected and have been improved. We're still waiting for some, like Hellsweeper. They've patched the game a few times, but the good thing is we've seen that some games have made a drastic turnaround. This one I'm playing in the to my left, for example, or my right. I don't know which way this is displaying, but stuff like No Man's Sky, I mean, you can see that this is some pretty impressive hardware features that I mean, it took No Man's Sky from looking like one of the worst PSVR games I've ever seen in my life to like literally one of the best. I mean, it's like red matter sharp. That eye tracking foveated rendering, while it may have stunted some growth at launch, stunted some launches, it's going to definitely pay dividends in the long run, in terms of being able to provide high graphical fidelity. You know, in comparison to what the standalone headsets do. Now, the standalone headsets are nice because they do have a lot of VRAF features integrated into them, to where, like, you know, they're wireless. They have a 3D environment home and things. But give it a couple years, and we're gonna see maybe, possibly, if the graphics, you know, aren't up to a certain standard, or fail to meet a certain standard, then it's going to kind of die out again. It's going to age poorly, because the graphics can't keep up. But that remains to be seen. A lot of stuff we're going to have to wait and be see. Let's see here. But yeah, No Man's Sky got updated. Green Hell got one update that looks a lot better. It would be if Green Hell does another update, and with the actual eye tracked foveated rendering. That game could look like, oh my god, that game could look insanely good. It does look better now, but it doesn't look like No Man's Sky levels good. That No Man's Sky looks absolutely bonkers good. Let's see here. But what I love about this feature is it does enable us to have PS5 looking games. I mean, Resident Evil 4 is a prime example of how amazing Resident Evil 4 looks. It looks like it looks like you're in a PS5 game, for Christ's sake. It's insanely awesome. So yeah, I don't think I'm going to read the rest of that article. But it did have some interesting points. But so again, while PSVR2 I think has had a great launch, a pretty good launch, if not great. Better than it gets credit for, absolutely, 100%. I think that goes without saying. Way if you compare the launch to what it is perceived, then it is one of the best launches ever in terms of games, in terms of the hardware, you know, all sorts of things. But looking at the big picture, you know, I can understand, like, there's a lot of room for improvement. There's a lot of coulda, shoulda, woulda. But the games have been a huge highlight for me. You know, again, when I got a PSVR2, when I was hoping for a PSVR2 back when covering PSVR1, I wanted to play console games in VR. That's what I wanted. And I want them to feel as built from the ground up for VR as much as possible. I will accept a couple sacrifices here and there, but I really, you know, I also am a believer in the VR technology. And as much as I love games, it's like, yes, I want to be as immersed as possible. I want the features and everything to be as interactive as possible, because that is a very important part too, not just having it in VR. But until we get to the future, like, and have to, until some things become standardized and some things, better solutions are found, I will absolutely take some compromises in the process. Der Snuff says a lot of PS4 games look awesome even today. Games have not really changed their looks on PS5. All the power is used for more pixels and ray tracing. Yeah. And not every game on PS5 is perfect either. Absolutely not. Or consoles, I should say. But yeah, man. So in terms of wins, I think I don't know why it doesn't get talked about more. PSVR 2 does not only have games, it's got the best freaking library of all VR right now. And I will take that to the grave with me. And that's not even with a year under its belt. If you compare the launch of PSVR2 and the launch of PSVR1, the quality of games here we're getting, the good games, the quality of them is insanely good. Stuff like I said, No Man's Sky, Resident Evil Village, Gran Turismo 7, and then you've got stuff like, Moss and better tracking. All these things. The library is insanely good compared to where we were around this time with PlayStation VR1. So games, huge win. And that was important because that's basically all PlayStation VR2 does is games. And that's one that goes in the L column for me. What did I want it primarily for? Games. So I'm happy there. But I did hope and expect additional features. This is where the competition does get things right. Things like a 3D home environment, things like being able to watch 3D movies, things like being able to play flat screen games in 3D, movie theater apps, things like that. Again, the good news here is that these are things that can be added later, I believe. But the little side features, they would have been a nice complement to the games. As much as I like the games itself, as much as that's what I primarily use it for, there's no denying that you see the amount of people just wanting to watch like YouTube videos in VR, which by the way look like shit most of the time anyways. So it's really just like they think they want it until they actually get it. But the other thing I will agree with too is that the whole strategy behind it not being backwards compatible. Now I agreed with the backwards compatibility under one condition. I said I didn't mind if it wasn't backwards compatible if the games got remastered. And sadly, this is where it takes another L. While we have gotten some remasters, we have, and shout out to the developers, that really have gone in there and remastered their games, brought them to the thing. Where the L comes from is by Sony themselves. First party games, Blood and Truth, Wipeout Omega Collection, Astro Bot Rescue Mission. If you're not going to remaster these games, you need to give us sequels. You need to give us backwards compatibility. They kind of didn't do either one. I mean, Sony themselves are, while I can appreciate them investing in newer things like Gran Turismo 7, Resident Evil, No Man's Sky again, blah, blah, blah. I do think in hindsight's 2020, the backwards compatibility thing, I mean, I don't know how much of that is talk of the internet. I mean, statistically, historically, backwards compatibility has been something that people always have talked about, but then the numbers never really support it. It ends up being the vocal minority. That being said, like I said, they should have at least remastered their first party games. That's the only part that's a true head scratcher to me, is like, okay, you don't want to make backwards compatible. Sure, that's not necessarily the best idea, but it's somewhat understandable because developers would still have to go in there and update stuff. But the part where they really messed up was that they didn't remaster some first party games either. But the games that have been remastered are better versions. I mean, even the No Man's Sky updated version is 10 times better than the PS4 version was. Like a huge improvement, which is really, really nice. So a little bit of a give and take. Firewall would have been a good one. They could have just remastered that. Instead, they tried to make a 1.5 and completely screwed it up, and then they closed, sadly. Looper, the Underground Game Cat, thank you so much for the donations. And speaking of, did you try Gun Club and Hotel R&R? I did try Hotel R&R, and I love that game, man. I love Hotel R&R so much. It's a really, really fun time. Not for everybody, but if you want like a good Rockstar simulator, Hotel R&R is fantastic for that. It's nice. Hotel R&R actually looks really, really nice with the updated version. They touched it up a good bit. And it's pretty sweet. I did not try Gun Club yet. It's a $10 upgrade. I didn't ask for keys. I didn't pay the $10 yet, so I just haven't gotten around to it. I liked Gun Club VR, but I wasn't like, I've never been like the biggest fan of it. I would like them to bring us, if anything, Rush VR. I would love to get Rush remastered. Let's see here. But yeah, there's some games like Your Long Shadows. Welcome, Your Long Shadows. Good to see you. Points out, yeah, like there's no Squadrons, no Hitman. Definitely, you definitely leaving some really big bangers out of the in last gen in a place where nobody plays anymore, really. That being said, I do have my PSVR1 still, and I'm going to keep it. And that thing, I can tell you right now, that thing is going to be really, really fun to revisit it. I will never, ever, ever get rid of my PSVR1, because that library is badass, and that'll be a lot of fun to revisit. It's such a good library of games. Some you can't even get anymore, so I'm really, really happy about that. But guys, so you know, we had a good launch, if not great launch. You know, there was a couple misses like No Man's Sky at launch, but other than No Man's Sky, we had some pretty big titles. And then shortly after that, we got stuff like Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, Synapse, which turned out to be pretty damn awesome. A bunch of great smaller indie titles that, you know, don't really get the love or attention. The Light Brigade is a good one. Song in the Smoke is fantastic. There's a lot more games than there's a lot more better games than you'll hear about. You know, even stuff that like I'm just happy to have these things, because at some point, one day, I'll be able to revisit and play some more of these titles. Keeping up with Without Parole is really tough. I have to play through every single game that launches, almost every single game. If it looks like complete garbage and I have zero interest, I am not going to touch it anymore like I would last gen. I realized you don't have to play everything, especially if you know it's going to be bad. But there's a lot of good games, and it's been hard to keep up with even the good games. Trust me, as somebody that's played all but maybe one of the big titles on PSVR2, which is Five Nights at Freddy's Help 1 and 2. I have not played that yet. It is like work at this point, keeping up with all the awesome games. And I'm like, oh, these games are so amazing, but I'm so burnt out and I'm so tired, and it is hard, man. But we want to be able to, you know, tell you guys what's good and what's not good at the end of the day. So it's worth it. Y'all are worth it, is what I'm saying. But yeah, man, the games have been phenomenal. The headset and the controllers, I feel like, are going to age well. Games and the technology and everything is going to get better as the years go on. The library is going to continue to be filled. I remember Sony's promise with PSVR1 was that they would have 200 games. Some people didn't think they were going to get there. They ended up having 500 games. Now, granted, about 100 of them are really the only ones worth playing, but that's 100 games that are worth playing. That's actually pretty good if you think about it. Most of you don't have time to play 100 games, so. But yeah, I love. I think, you know, I do think that at some point it will be interesting to see right now. So let's talk about where we're at now and where we're going, where the future is heading to. If you read articles online and if you listen to the media outlets and everything, VR is supposed to take a small step back. It's supposed to decline a little bit. This isn't just PSVR2. This is VR as a whole. I think Sony, you know, Eric Lempel said that they expected VR to be in a bigger place right now. I'm sure Quest is doing okay, but I'm sure they may have thought that that would be doing better right now than it is. But I think people get ahead of themselves. I also think people expect these things to, you know, they're hoping, and myself included, we all want PSVR and Quest to sell 20 million overnight. But that's just not the reality. That's just not the ecosystem. That's not the reality of how things work. That's just not where we're headed right now. And if you've been around long enough, you know that VR as a whole is kind of a slow burn, and that's okay. It's a slow ride that goes up and it has its ups and downs, but it is 100% worth it if you care about it. Because when you do get the good stuff, my God, it is the most amazing shit ever. Like I said, the aforementioned Gran Turismo, Resident Evil series, No Man's Sky, and then again, not mention a bunch of great indies as well. There's tons of great indies as well that don't get the love and attention that they deserve. But I think that's going to change. I think that's going to change in the near future. But yeah, the market is estimated there. This is more of the analyst predictions thing, which is never accurate completely. So definitely take this with a grain of salt. And this is just purely speculation. But it's educated guesses. Let's put it that way. It's educated guesses. But yeah, the market is expected to kind of decline a little bit, plateau a little bit, and then it's supposed to have a huge boost in the next couple years. Actually, about another like 4 years is when they're predicting that things really shoot up again. Yeah, we're in phase 2 of VR right now, so it's not a huge surprise. I mean, we've made huge progress from the first generation of VR. Massive progress. But there's still a long journey to go. So if you just want everything to be perfect tomorrow, then sorry, but you're going to need to go back. Just sell your VR headsets and come back in 10 years. That's when everything will be much more perfect for you. But for those of you like me that are like, okay, I'll take the good and the bad. I will go along for this ride, and I'm going to enjoy the best that there is, and have to endure some of the crappy stuff that comes along with it. And that's been the majority of what this ride has been, is kind of a roller coaster. There's been tons of ups, tons of downs. But the ups have been life-changing, like seriously, incredible. Real quick, Silver Nexus, thank you so much for the donation. Appreciate the support, my friend. Appreciate all of you. Hello, all of you out there. I hope you had a lovely Christmas, and I hope you're having a great time out there. And you are awesome, and you are appreciated, and I love you. Says Happy New Year wishes. PSVR Underground and Game Cats, be safe and very merry. Be very merry indeed. So yeah, I mean, it took a while for PSVR to really start taking off, but when it did, it really started taking off. I mean, the first year, they said it didn't. I don't think it hit 1 million within its first year. Yeah, no, it hit 1 million within it, almost the end of a year. It hit 1 million. But there was like a turning point, and that's where I feel like what happens with VR is there's some kind of turning point, whether it be a price drop, or it's kind of a combination of things. It's a price drop, the library. The price drop is a big one. I think that's the biggest barrier for VR right now is the price. The hardware that you can have access to is very worth the price, but it's also very expensive. For a lot of people, it's just not even they just can't even afford it. And tons of different people from different backgrounds and afford it, not even financially, but the time, or there's several different barriers still. And I do think the price is the biggest factor here. If I were to change one thing, I don't know, man. I talked about this last week, and it's like, if you want it to be cheaper, then you'd have to sacrifice some of the best features that it has, and it puts it in a really tough position. It's like, if you wanted PSVR2 to sell millions and millions and millions overnight. You'd have to cut out the eye tracking. You'd have to cut out the adaptive triggers, the haptics, the headset rumble. And you basically could maybe sell it for $300 or something. And that would get people to buy it, but it would also, it wouldn't age very well. It wouldn't age as well. And I don't know, man. So it's a tough decision. I can understand that one being a very, very tough one from a business perspective as to what to decide. Personally, since VR is in its infancy, I think they could have gotten away with, cutting out all these additional features, and just trying to go for the cheap product, go for the cheap sell. It's so cheap, it's great, everybody can afford it. Everybody gets one for Christmas because it's so damn cheap. But on the flip side of that, again, that's what maybe stunts growth at launch, but in the long run, that's the opposing side there, is now in a couple years, if PSVR2 drops the price, that's going to be a hard thing to like deny. I mean, if PSVR2 becomes a lot cheaper, if it gets a price cut eventually, which would be due to either excessive inventory that they need to get rid of, or just a marketing push, or the technology just gets cheaper over time and they can afford to make it cheaper. One of those things, the price drop will definitely help a lot. But I am totally fine with the price for now. But it's no surprise that it's not selling millions and millions and millions overnight with a 550 price tag. Nihilist Ryan says the only feature I'd be willing to sacrifice would be the headset rumble. Everything else feels like a must-have. Even the headset rumble feels like a must-have to me. It's all amazing. Psychology Gamer. They said that the PS5 is their priority, which is obvious. I don't think there's nothing nefarious about that comment. They're saying, you have to sell PS5s. You have to take care of PS5s first and foremost. Absolutely. But they did this with the PS4 where they prioritized the PS4, and that doesn't mean you can't do amazing things with the VR still. Jan Klassen says Rumble costs $5 in the making, maybe less. It probably does. It probably doesn't cost much. But the whole, the eye tracking and stuff, that added a lot to the cost. But that's such a good feature. I mean, without eye tracking, Bad Robo, we were talking about this last week, like, you take away eye tracking, that's a tough one, man, because you take away eye tracking and then all of a sudden it's like, ugh, you lose being able to play Resident Evil or Gran Turismo looking as good as they do, and it's like, I don't know. I think it's worth having those. I think it's worth taking the loss of sales from the higher price point by having something that is just in the long run will be much, much better. But overall, man, like I said, similar to PSVR1, this year has been a bumpy ride, but it's been a lot of fun. And I'm so thankful and really appreciate all of you that have been along for the ride. And again, welcome to all the new people that are joining as well. The PSVR2 is a badass headset. You may not hear a bunch of people talking about it online, but it doesn't matter. Play the thing and you will see. There's a lot of echo chambers out there. There's a lot of VR haters. There's a lot of competitive people, console war fanboys. There's and it's a lot of toxic bullshit that doesn't matter at the, one bit. It's a badass headset, and it's going to continue to be badass, and it's going to get even better over time. And you can mark my words there, it will be better over time. But again, there's so much more I want to get into about 2023, everything, but really, I think we're ready to move on as to what to look forward to. We had a great launch. We've had some really good games in between launch. There were some disappointments that luckily have mostly been fixed now. Still waiting on Hellsweeper. I can't wait to play that. Holiday season just came. A bunch of people, probably a bunch of new PSVR2 owners, no doubt. But guys, as early as next year, as early as next month, within a few days, guys, get ready. I know most of you are probably not even done playing Resident Evil 4. I'm not really. I'm still trying to play Gran Turismo 7, which was a launch game. But Gran Turismo, Resident Evil 4, you know, but here's the reality. Here is the virtual reality. Right around the corner, guys, we've already got, I remember last week somebody asked me, will PlayStation VR2 get some more AAA games in 2024? Well, we are kicking 2024 off with a AAA game because halfway through next month, you guys, I mean, literally a couple weeks from now, we're going to get Bulletstorm VR. This is just one of the many games that are coming. And like I said, you know, I think that one of the coolest things about PSVR2 is that the bar, like the floor has been raised a little bit. Usually we get like random releases and stuff, and like even just like the smaller releases for PSVR2, besides the shit ones, not talking about shit games here, I'm talking about the good games. Even the smaller good games meet higher quality standards, which is really nice. Now, I have to play Bulletstorm. We don't know exactly how good it's going to be or anything, but this game was originally slated for 2023, was pushed back. We suspect maybe due to the sales that Green Hell got, made them realize, oh, this probably has to actually look kind of decent and play kind of decent and stuff. And so we're kicking the month off with Bulletstorm, which I'm really excited to play. On top of that, though, we've got an update from the Aces of Thunder devs. This is, of course, another highly anticipated game. Now, we've got Ultra Wings coming, which I am like 99% sure is going to be awesome. But the Aces of Thunder devs gave us a little Christmas present here. Let's go ahead and go back to the Twitters. They say, Merry Christmas and warmest wishes for a Happy New Year. The upcoming year holds great importance for us all, and we hope it brings you abundant joy as you soar through the virtual skies in Aces of Thunder. Game development is almost finished. Expect exciting news shortly. So, one of the more anticipated games we've been looking forward to, Aces of Thunder, sounds like it's right around the corner as well. So guys, you know, it's really getting hard to keep up with all these games. It's really getting hard, man. You know, but keep them coming, man. Keep them coming. We'll get through this somehow. But Aces of Thunder seems like it's right around the corner, as is Ultra Wings 2. Oops, I didn't mean to mute myself there. Sorry. But no, Aces of Thunder is coming, as is Bulletstorm. But we're just getting started, man. This is just what we know about. Yeah, I did mute myself there for a second. Sorry about that. I told you, it's hard. It's hard talking about stuff, reading comments, and changing videos. It's really difficult, but I'm doing my best here. And I appreciate you guys. The Arcane Age developers, Vitruvius VR, have also said that this game is actually... So I was expecting this game to be like a later in the year, a summer, a Q4, which it could maybe get pushed back. But they're actually aiming for a Q2 release for this game. So they're aiming for an early launch next year. Again, another indie game that is not going to be talked about left and right. Not tons and tons of buzz around it yet. Maybe closer to launch it will get more, but because it's a new IP, because it's from a smaller studio, it doesn't have the marketing star power as a Resident Evil or a Gran Turismo. But this game is looking pretty sweet, and it comes to us from the Shadow Legend Shadow Legend devs. Shadow Legend? Is that what it was called? Yeah, it was. Arcanage is looking really good. Also, early 2024, guys, a little game that is considered to be one of the best VR games ever made, called Vertigo 2. Vertigo 2. This, of course, comes from one of the former developers over from Valve. He created this game, and I'm not going to say much on this. I have been playing this game because it was supposed to release back in December. The release got delayed because of a game-breaking bug that they found, and they wanted to fix it and didn't want to release it with that, which is understandable because that one was pretty much unavoidable. And so, but what I will say, man, is like, I again, we'll wait for the reviews. I haven't finished it yet, so I wouldn't want to give you a full review anyways, but guys, this is definitely something pretty special. Definitely, a game that in terms of like being a one developer team, I've never seen anything as big, or as deep or as awesome and cinematic and exciting and adventure-y as something like this by one person. I've never seen anything that looks this good by one person, that's as big as it is for one person. It's insane. It's really, really good so far. Like really, really good. And I think this one's going to be very, very special. It's definitely a game to get excited about, and I think this is going to be coming to PlayStation VR2 early on. But yeah, definitely mad Half-Life vibes in this game for sure. But yeah, this one's gearing up to be something really special, and I can't even wait. I haven't even gotten to the creation mode yet, and so this game's going to have some legs too. But I think if I have a prediction, I think that when this game releases, I feel like it's probably going to be like a top 5 game of all time kind of deal, of like VR games. But I have a lot more to go with it. So, but yeah, really, really impressive. And that's going to be one to keep an eye on. So super, super exciting times, guys. Let the internet talk, let the toxic fanboy console war bullshit do their thing. And meanwhile, I'm just going to sit here and enjoy these awesome games that keep coming to us over and over and over and over. But yeah, man, really, really exciting times. And like I said, first year in terms of PSVR2, I mean, I think this is definitely from a hardware standpoint. Yeah, Venser, what's up, dude? He also mentions we got Madison VR coming in February. I think February 20th, Madison VR. I really need a break from horror games, which is why I haven't played Help Wanted 2 yet. But I can't wait. That being said, even though I need a break from horror games, I am looking forward to Madison VR and Phasmophobia. Behemoth is late 2024 is what it's scheduled to be, so I'll wait for then. But man, but yeah. Wait. Mal says, think I'm getting my headset early January. Well, you know what you should do, Mal, is the holiday sale is ending very soon. You need to take advantage of the sale while you can. Get Resident Evil Village for $15. $15. Why is Resident Evil Village $15? Why? Oh my God. Go ahead and take advantage of the sale, Mal. Welcome to the family, by the way. Welcome, you and everyone who's getting a PSVR2 soon. It's amazing, man. Yeah, your long shadow says laughable price IMO. $15 for Resident Evil. I'm just like, how, what universe is this? To get a AAA VR game for $15. Good God. But yeah, take advantage of the sale. If you need recommendations, let me know. Sunshine, happy fun times, my dude. What is up, man? Old school. We got an old schooler in the house, y'all. What is up, Sunshine? This is Phasmophobia is really special to me. It's great to play with close friends. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that one. I hope by that time they get the audio stuff worked out, to where you can use like the audio speech chat or whatever, for like the spirit box and stuff, because that's apparently a really, really cool feature. And yeah, that even just thinking about that gives me the heebie-jeebies. But yeah, unfortunately, Phasmophobia was delayed indefinitely because of just thing after thing. I mean, their studio caught fire and all these sorts of things. But yeah, man. There's so many games. We can open up to the chat since this is the last, guys. This is the last interactive chat of 2023. So I'm gonna give you your money's worth. Jan Clausen says, did AJ talk about Firewall yet? Makes me worry. I talked about Firewall a little bit last week. Actually a lot. I talked about it for like 45 minutes. Here's the truth, man. There's going to be studios that fail. There's going to be studios that close. There's going to be, it happens, right? It's not a good thing. No, it is not a good thing. I would have much rather Firewall been a success, or much rather them stick around long enough to patch the game. It seemed like the game was headed in the right direction. That does not spell doom and gloom for PSVR2 for me. Now, is it something that could have, Firewall being successful obviously would have only helped PSVR2. But there's alternatives right now. You've got Pavlov, you've got Crossfire Sierra Squad. You have alternatives. And yes, while Firewall, and you've got Breachers now too, while Firewall would have definitely, it being awesome, would have been a system seller again, would have done great for the ecosystem, introduced a lot of new people. It's just something that happens, man, and it's something you don't ever want to see. But there will be studios closing. There, in the future, there could be more studios closing. It happens, man. It happens. But also new studios emerge, new games, new IPs emerge that blow up. And it's just part of the thing. Like I said, it's unfortunate, it's sad. I really, my heart goes out to everyone over at FCE. I wish they found a way to stick with it, make it worth sticking with it. But honestly, the game was just a mess, man. That's why ultimately, that's what made the game fail, is the game being a disaster at launch. Whether there were outside sources were part of the reason for that, sure, maybe. But I do think it could have been prevented. I do think it could have been delayed. I do think it was a lot of self-inflicted wounds as well. Again, Vertigo 2 made by one person, and it's a massive game. It's not up to us as consumers to make these decisions for companies. We just buy what we like, and we talk about and share what we love, and that's what it is. So let's see here. Everyone's talking about this globular cluster head strap thing. If you if you find the PSVR2 uncomfortable, I've heard it's really good. I really wanted to do an accessories video, the best accessories. I think Brian and I are going to do an accessories breakdown at some point. But I'll tell you right off the bat, I think the most important ones are absolutely the lenses, the PSVR2 lenses, 100%. The most important one was an absolute game changer for me. Let's see here. Nihilist Ryan, my Metal Feline friend, says Sony did a smart thing by cutting FCE off. They knew the people weren't listening and they acted accordingly. I mean, yeah, there's, you know, I give some props to FCE for what they accomplished with Firewall 1 or Firewall 0 Hour. Again, one of the best games I've ever played. I banned somebody last week because they left a comment saying, Firewall 0 Hour, you just liked it because that's all you had on PSVR1. And I was like, dude, fuck you. Like, shut up. That's not true. I don't even really am not like a multiplayer person. Like most people that know me know that. And I spent 400 hours, over 400 hours with that game. It was amazing. It was absolutely incredible. And it was, it's like saying Gran Turismo 7 is not actually good. It's just all we have. Like, shut up. I don't care. I don't want to hear you. You're banned. Your opinion sucks. And this person, by the way, I don't even think they have a PSVR2 or a PSVR1. It sounded like they didn't even. There's a lot of people that apparently watch my channel now that don't even they play on other devices. But I guess maybe because there's some crossover with the games. That they come to hear about, someone talk about the games from a different perspective, but then they talk to me like they have they obviously don't have the platform, but then they have some opinion on it. Again, worst thing to come out of this year is this secondhand opinion, echo chamber, paid influencer bullshit. Is absolutely, and it doesn't help anybody in the long run. It only hurts things in the long run. So, Dad Breath says the aim was amazing. The aim controller was amazing. Bad Robo says, AJ, do you have the Mega Man Legacy Collection on PS5? It's good. I don't, but I've beaten like 20 Mega Mans, and I can tell you it is probably good. Because Mega Man is awesome. Mega Man is like the reason I started playing games. That's why I have a Mega Man on the rooftop. Mega Man 2 right there. Also, I have a Mega Man VR game in Dreams. Oh, Bad Robo. I saw something that was it you working with the Gastafring guy on I don't know, Godfrey Man in Dreams. Are you guys making pod racing? I saw some like realistic looking pod racing thing somebody's making in VR in Dreams. Are you working on that too? Because that's insane, and I want to check that out. I'm not like the biggest Star Wars fan, but the pod racing game was fun as shit on N64. And to have that in VR, I will absolutely do that. Oh, awesome Tatum. You should send that Mega Man 2 vinyl soundtrack as a Christmas birthday present. My birthday's coming up. All right. Well, Bad Robo, if you need any testing, or let me know when it's done, or if you need some feedback, I'll help you test it too. I would actually maybe plug in my PSVR1, hook that back up again to try out your pod racing VR game. It looks ridiculously good. It looks like it's still got a ways to go, but the visually it looks nice. Oh, Vertigo 2 is gonna be so badass, you guys. I can't wait to see the level creation thing. That I'm really, really excited about as well. But oh my god, dude, my highlights. I have so many highlights for this year, though. Oh my god, like Gran Turismo, dude. Gran Turismo is just seriously like so mind blowing. It continues to blow my mind to this day. Cannot stress how good Gran Turismo is. Absolute system seller. Worth buying a PSVR for this and a racing rig. If you got the money, do it. It's the greatest thing in the world. It's insanely good. Oh, it's a 1-to-1 emulation. Interesting. There's some of these things, I don't know. I'm not even going to get into these. I see people talking about reprojection and Mura. Yeah, those are things, but I also think that they were blown way out of proportion. I'd rather have an occasional little bit of Mura or whatever that like comes up for like 10 seconds out of a 14-hour playthrough of I'd rather have that than the graphics just look like ass to begin with. So but yeah, man, Oh, you guys are killing me. You're talking about Ninja Gaiden 2. I also love Ninja Gaiden. Yeah, Shady Waffles, I love your name by the way, says GT7 has incredible gamepad support too. I do like the idea of I do like the motion control gamepad thing for Gran Turismo. Like um yeah, it's still good with a controller. But guys, with a racing wheel, it is transformative. It transcends gaming with a racing wheel. It's insane. It's the most realistic, most immersive experience I've ever had in VR in my life. And you don't hear many people talking about that. You know, that PSVR2 literally has the most immersive game ever made, and that is Gran Turismo with a racing wheel. I think that is the most immersive VR game ever to exist in all of existence, and I don't know if anything's going to top it. It is straight up being like in the holodeck. It's absolutely insane. Also, I saw that Gran Turismo movie, and it was surprisingly good. I was not expecting that. MC says, I got a racing wheel, but no feedback. That's good enough, man. It's good enough. Do what you got to do to get that wheel. That's the important part. The feedback is nice. The feedback is definitely nice, but the racing wheel is the important part. Man, exciting times. I mean, like I said, man, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I'm gonna be honest with you. I've been really burnt out lately. really burnt out. I beat Ven VR. It was good. It was solid. A little bit janky, underwhelming boss fights. But a solid platformer nonetheless. Definitely not as good as I'd hoped it would be, but solid. Tiger Blade was actually really fun. I love arcade games though, so if you're not like a if you're not like a big arcade game person, then you're not gonna love it. Visually, it's not, it looks okay. It's not really great visually, but the gameplay is a lot of fun. Fun boss fights. What else did I play? I've been really, like I said, I've been trying to get caught up on a bunch of things. I'm really, I've been trying to get through. Obviously, I spent a lot of time on Resident Evil 4. There's still so much I want to do. There's so much I want to do in terms of the channel. Lots of stuff. The free roller coaster thing. I'm thinking I'm thinking at some point I need to take a small break because I'm very burnt out. Like I said, it's a lot of work. It doesn't sound like it, but it actually is a lot of work. Trying to keep up with every single game that releases and doing shows every week and everything. And I just need to take a little bit of a break, a little bit of a vacation when I get a chance and come back fresh. And I'd like to, maybe even with 2024, like to start bringing back, Niles Ryan says, cooking simulator though. I have that. I haven't even touched that yet because I honestly don't like cooking games, but I don't know. Yeah, Ven is really sharp, Bad Robo. Ven is very sharp. It's got that nice native FPS that looks really good. Definitely no reprojection there. Man. But I'd love to bring back Saturday Night live streams at some point. I'd like to take a break first because Saturday Night live streams is probably where my burnout started. and then like I just never, Brian and I are horrible at taking breaks. So we need to take one at some point. But I would love to come back fresh. When you don't take a break, the problem is that you get so burnt out that you can't even just make the content that you want to make. I had so many videos I wanted to do over the Christmas break and like I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't move. And yeah. Jack Call, I will definitely always pretty much have one stream weekly, which is basically this one. This one is pretty much set in stone because This isn't mentally draining like streaming games or editing videos is. This one is a lot of fun to just hang out with you guys, talk, and I do, usually do 2 a week. I do one with you, and I do one here, and then I do one with Brian every Monday on Gamescast. Speaking of which, this Saturday, guys, we've got the 2023 PSVR2 awards show. That's going to be really, really cool. We're going to do the show, and then after the showcase, after the award show, we're going to do like a post show Gamescast. So we'll do a Gamescast after the award show Saturday night. We're going to try to do it early enough to where all of our lovely folks out there across the pond, you'll be able to attend as well. We don't have a set time yet, but we do have you guys in mind. So we're going to not make you stay up to midnight or anything to try and watch it if you're 5 hours ahead or whatever. But that's going to be really, really fun. I'm going to showcase some upcoming games, maybe some new things, and of course, do all the awards. But yeah, a post-show Gamescast definitely happening. That'll be a lot of fun. It's been a while since we've done that. Scott says Saturday Night Live streams with AJ coming back in 2024. Yeah, that will make my year. Hell yeah, man. There's I'll tell you, the thing I loved about Saturday Night Live streams is like I thoroughly kept up with like every game. Like it was a good way to spend a Saturday night, have fun with you guys. Also, showcase different games, and also like, it was a great way to spend tons of hours with every single game. It was good, but yeah, I'm hoping to bring that back 2024, early 2024. So that'd be cool, because now that I've taken a break from that, there's been lots of time for the library to expand, and things like that. Another thing that kind of, we got to keep in mind too is like, keep in mind that there's a big change up going on at Sony. One thing that Sony wasn't prepared for, with their current state, is like they have way more competition. Things like Microsoft buying ZeniMax Studios and stuff, that has prevented us from there's been a lot of some of the downsides, which aren't huge deals, but they're important. Some of the things that we feel like we're missing on PSVR 2 are not necessarily Sony's fault either. I mean, when you see these people say that they don't support VR enough, blah blah blah, like sure, their marketing could be better, but keep in mind that we've got actually quite a bit of exclusives that Sony threw down money on. Besides the Resident Evil games, besides Gran Turismo, they made a entire standalone Horizon game. And there's stuff like Switchback, Synapse, Crossfire Sierra Squad. So they're definitely, the support is there. They also paid for the Song in the Smoke remaster. But then there are things that are playing into it from outside sources, like Microsoft buying Bethesda and stuff. Unfortunately, hurts our chances. We could have maybe had Starfield in VR. We could have maybe had some other Bethesda IPs in VR. Could have had Skyrim remastered. So, at the end of the day, we just gotta appreciate what we do get, because as you can see, this whole industry, these games we get, man, a lot of people take video games for granted, but man, cherish the good shit we get, because we get a lot of good shit. And that's been my big takeaway, is like, man, I really just appreciate even the stuff we've gotten in the first year of PSVR 2. Like, this library is already, like, the fact that we have some of these games, I'm just like, yes, like, no matter what happens, we will always have these games that we got in the first year on PSVR 2. And no matter what happens in the future, or no matter, what happens with PSVR 2 in the future, or VR as a whole in the future, we will always have these. So let's keep fighting. Let's keep fighting and clawing for every last little awesome thing we can get. Because yeah, once we get them, we have them forever, which is great. Your Long Shadow says, AJ, check and see if they have those sensory deprivation float tanks in your area. Such a treat for an overworked and burnt out mind. Oh, interesting. Okay, I will. What's it called? Float tank. They probably do. There's a lot of stuff in the Atlanta area. Atlanta's pretty big. There's like over 5 million people here. Steve Irie says RoboCop's the dream game. Yeah, dude, that's the thing, man. You know, we've seen some of the limitations that can happen with third-person games, but that shouldn't stop them from bringing every first-person game. Give us every third-person game. You know, it's one thing, like I said, I kind of said this in the beginning of the episode, but I'll reiterate because I do feel it's very important. While PSVR2 nailed the most important thing, which is like be able to at least have the capability of playing badass games. I would like to see additional features added. The dream is eventually to get, you know, lots of non-VR games, console quality games because of the content of them. Stuff like Resident Evil 4 is proof to me that, like, look, like, would I like every last little thing? I would have liked Resident Evil 4 to be implemented to the high level of Resident Evil Village, which I think is a better VR game. But I will take whatever I can get. If that's what it has to be done in order to get a bigger and better VR experience as a whole, sure, so be it. Moving forward, you know, I hope Sony, obviously we see that first-person games are implemented way better and easier, or at least way better than third-person games can be. So I hope to see more. I'm going to be keeping my eye on a lot of first-person games. I'd love to get a big announcement, something like Cyberpunk. That'd be pretty awesome. Cyberpunk is a game that I waited 10 years for and then never even played. It was a weird one. But yeah, I'd like to see a lot of first-person games get the VR treatment. Third-person games, if they can, you know, implement them to, you know, the best that they can, I'll be fine with that. And then I think Sony should really, you know, with Meta showing that, you know, Meta has a feature where you can play like Xbox Games Pass or whatever, even just on a flat screen, on a flat virtual screen. I think Sony should really look into the possibility of, you know, being able to add an in-game camera for some third-person games. Now, again, I'm not crazy about this feature, but that being said, if I was able to play Spider-Man from a camera in the game and just kind of like overlooking everything, like I'd play the absolute shit out of it. So I would 100% do it. I would like to see them, you know, from the software side, continue to expand PSVR2. This Sony Pictures Core, this new video app, is actually pretty decent. I'd love to see that get some kind of VR integration. I hope that's just the beginning. You know, that just dropped recently. So while movies were not really a popular thing on the PlayStation console in the past, I do think they have a bigger place now. And could possibly be awesome to see. MC says Cyberpunk would be an awesome, but what about lo-fi? I mean, not even a question. I would take Cyberpunk. Would slap around lo-fi easily. Lo-fi seems pretty cool. I don't know how much I trust that developer. He seems like a weird dude who's like negative all the time, and I don't like his personality at all. But as far as the game goes, it also doesn't seem like it's really he doesn't seem like he's very interested in making a good game so much as a good technical showpiece kind of thing. So I'm not expecting anything super awesome from that. Maybe it'll be awesome to like explore the world, interact with, But beyond that, it's gonna have to be a good game too, and I don't know how much I trust this dude to deliver that. I don't know. John Savino says, "What's up with Brian? He's working tirelessly on the award show airing this Saturday, December 30th. Yeah, he's working really, really hard on that. So that's what he's focusing all of his attention and the last remaining energy he has on. Awesome Tatum says lo-fi is just a VR sandbox. Yeah, which is cool. But the problem with stuff like that is like it doesn't have legs. Like again, this is where I like stuff like Gran Turismo, like Resident Evil, not to sound like a broken record, but it's like you can play this shit for a long, long, long time. That's why people want AAA games in VR, is because they typically come with a lot of content. I don't want to, you know, like I love some 5-hour games and stuff as well, but they're not as memorable or life-changing, or they don't keep you preoccupied as long as some of these huge games that just have like amazing depth. Let's see here. What else going on with you guys that you want to talk about? Mark Pringles Leaf says, I would like to see a Sony PSVR2 of a game like Asgard's Wrath 2. Yeah. I hope Asgard's Wrath loses its exclusivity, or at least has like a timed exclusivity and comes over to PSVR2. That game looks fantastic, looks right up my alley. I love RPGs. Yeah, Sony, this is what I was, I think, talking about before I got sidetracked. Sony has a lot of shit to figure out right now. Their CEO is heading out the door. And again, I've expressed since they've taken over that I was not happy about it. So I am actually happy that they're leaving, because, you know, a lot of the stuff I warned about, nobody really seemed to care or whatever, really pay attention. But then you look behind the scenes and you see what's going on. Them turning PlayStation into a games as a service, it was not a good idea. Not a good idea. Like very business driven, but not actually in touch or in tune with what people actually want or what will sell or what will be successful. And you look at the stuff that kind of been going down, and it's like, yeah, it's like this is the stuff that I warned about years ago. Ooh, yes, I would love dude. Oh my god, a Final Fantasy game in VR. Oh my god, I would lose my shit if Final Fantasy gets VR. There is like a director or something from Square Enix that follows me on Twitter. I wonder if and I only do VR stuff on Twitter, so I wonder if there's. Could you guys imagine a Final Fantasy game in VR? Holy fuck. Oh my god. Oh my god. It's such a tease playing the Final Fantasy VII remake, and Cloud puts on a VR mask to do like some of the training and stuff. They've got the gold saucer. Again, Final Fantasy VII is like pretty much the only game that can get me to play something else other than VR. But like even in like the gold saucer area and stuff, he uses like a VR headset, and I'm like, oh, what a tease. You know, I would love to see, God, if a Final Fantasy game got VR support, I'd die. John Savino says, rate Ven 1 to 10. Been away for games for a month, so need to know what's good that just came out. Ven is solid. It's like 6.8. It's okay. Like it's average. I'd say it's average. Julia puts it well too. She says it's a mid game. It's kind of mid, but it's also got some bright spots. It's got some bright spots. It's got a lot of charm. But yeah, it's only a couple hours long. Some of it looks really nice. Some of it's got some good areas. It's got horrible. The boss fights are kind of lame. And it definitely is nothing original about it. Unfortunately, I wish they would have gone a little bit more original with it, but it is very much just like a copycat. I mean, it's the closest thing to a Crash Bandicoot in VR you're going to get. So at least right now. Let's see here. What up, Kill Artist, the Dream Weaver? He says, sorry, I'm late. It's RE4's fault. Understandable. Dude, that's the one thing. See, that's the thing about RE4 over Village. Village obviously has way better VR implementation through and through. It's actually quite incredible what they've achieved with that game. I went back and replayed some of it, and I'm just like, God, this is like amazing. And the way the game is so immersive and keeps you in first person the whole time and all that stuff. That being said, that Resi 4 replay value is something else, man. Resi 4 is a game that it just seems like a game you can play over and over and over, and it actually has reasons to. Like it's got some cool rewards, some cool things. The replay value of Resi 4 is nasty. The good kind of nasty. Let's see here. MC Hello Games released Light No Fire next year. Fingers crossed. Yeah, man. I think I'm gonna really try, you know, at the end of the day, you know, VR is already a more niche thing. It's a smaller community. And then you take PSVR2, which just is even smaller, and or the PSVR, you know, it has the potential to be bigger, the biggest VR yet, but it really is, you know, it's not, especially with the competition like Meta. Again, competition is good, but I don't like the endless hate and slanderous shit that happens with PSVR. It's horrible, man. It's horrible. But it honestly, I like being the underdog. I think it's gonna shit like that just motivates me to be more vocal about how amazing PSVR2 is, and you know, maybe that'll be one of my New Year's resolutions, man. I want to push this thing and see this through as far as it can go, and I want to push this thing as hard as I can. Being honest with it, being, you know, I'm critical on Sony, I'm critical on PSVR as well. But again, the one difference is I think media outlets, other places, they completely fall on their faces and they fail to highlight the actual good things, and I think that's the dangerous part of what they do. But they don't give a shit. They just care about what gets clicks and what gets money. Luckily, you know, me doing this as a hobby, I don't rely on this. Jesus Christ, Sal. What the, I just said, okay, I take that back. I do rely on money. Sal, my dude, with a $50 donation. Holy crap. I'm selling out, y'all. I'm selling out. I'm going big time. Oh, shit, dude. Thank you so much for the $50 donation. Oh, my God. He says, just to thank you for all that you do towards a big thing happening next year at the Game Cat meetup. Dude, thank you, man. Oh, my God. Now, I don't do this for money, but it certainly helps. Helps me not lose money in the process. And amazing supporters like Sal, man. Man, thank you. And I hope what you sent me recently has your address, because I really want to send you something back. And if not, I'm going to get it from you, and I'm going to send you some cool shit. Steve Irie says, that's some nice sriracha funds. Damn right. We got to support my sriracha addiction, guys. Got to support my sriracha addiction. But dude, thank you, for real. I really appreciate all of you that have been with me this entire year or longer. Many of you for much longer. Those of you that are just joining now, welcome to the family, man. We got the greatest community ever. We have at the end of the day, we will always have each other. You know, Brian and I have talked about, you know, the state of VR, the state of PSVR, like last year, years ago, and I basically said, listen, man, like I am here to the end. Whenever that may be, like I could be as burnt out. I may need a break at some point. But like, no, I am always going to be here doing this for as long as I can, because I do this because I believe in this headset, and I love this thing, and I love our community, And man, it's really, really special time. What a time to be alive for gaming. This is the best gaming I've ever had in my life. So I don't have any plans on quitting or giving up anytime soon. I think even if, hypothetically, even if VR as an industry just collapsed, I think I would still continue to do this. I think I would still probably do this for as long as I could mentally take it. I've got a whole 5 years worth of PSVR1 games that I could revisit. This library is already within the first year, is stacking up to be pretty nice, and is only going to probably, I mean, I imagine the library is only going to get better as time goes on. This is I'll be honest, Wayner the gamer says VR, the stuff we dreamed of in the 80s and 90s. I'll be honest with you, I didn't even think about VR until PSVR came out, and then that's really when I was like, and it was a weird one too, because it was like I was always kind of I loved PlayStation, I loved Nintendo games my entire life, some PC, some other stuff as well, but I also really loved arcade games, and I really felt like VR was like the evolution of arcade gaming. That the next level experience of next iteration of light gun games and stuff to me. And, I know a lot of people dreamed of this for a long time. And yeah, I mean, it is definitely there in that regard. But I want to see it go even further, man. I want to see it keep going. The lawnmower, man. Yeah, man, it's good shit. Well, guys and gals, ladies and gents and cats and dogs and everybody, man. We've hit the 2 hour mark. But yeah, man, lots of exciting stuff, guys. I want to try to get a break in between now and the beginning of 2024 when the games start coming out again. But this is, of course, officially the last show, Interactive Chat, of 2023. So really, really appreciate all 156 of you still watching. I saw it was like it was like 170, 180 earlier. Really appreciate you guys. You guys are the best community, myself or Brian or Wes or Miles could really ask for. I really don't feel like we need anybody else's approval, anything, opinion. We don't need to listen to anybody else. We got each other, and man, it's an amazing community to be a part of. And it's not going to be too much longer before you see us again. We're going to be here Saturday over at PSVR2 Without Parole, airing the 2023 PSVR Award Show, voted by you, the people. So we'll be seeing you then, and we'll be doing a post award show, Gamescast live, hopefully with the whole crew. That'll be a lot of fun, man, and it should feel really, really special. I know Brian works his ass off on these, and he pulls off some insane shit, and we're gonna do our best to represent you proud here. Your opinions matter to us very much, and we like to do stuff to make you feel proud to be a part of this community. But guys, what a 2023. The best part about 2023, no doubt, is that we finally got PSVR2 after waiting what felt like for ages, man. And really, the truth is the best is yet to come. Although we did have some stellar shit happen with our headsets, not even 1 year in. Some really, really amazing stuff. So we're going to keep the excitement going all the way into next year. And there's tons. I mean, like I said, I'm not going to get much of a break. If I get some break between now and the beginning of 2024, it's not going to be a lot of time, not going to be a lot of downtime, but I'm going to try to take a mental break for a little bit. The idea is to take a quick break and then come back swinging with videos, with live streams, with Saturday Night live streams. This show, we'll come back in full force. But yeah, man, to all of you out there listening, watching, participating, thank you for being a part of this. Thank you for joining our community and being an important piece, the heart of really what keeps us going. Your support really means a lot to us, man. It has over the years, and it will continue to be our beating heart for this thing. And man, just keep it up, man. We got exciting times right around the corner. Bulletstorm, Vertigo 2, hopefully, Madison VR. We're going head first into friggin' 2024 with a AAA game, with an indie game that feels like a AAA game, with some more Sony funded stuff like Aces of Thunder, some non-Sony funded stuff that's huge and awesome like Ultra Wings 2. Wanderer is going to be probably mind-blowing once again. We got some big stuff right around the corner, man. So get your rest. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Get your rest because you're going to need it. And hopefully I'll get some rest too. I'm going to be take a short little break, and then but you can catch me in the Discord as always. You feel free to reach me there. But yeah, hopefully get a nice little mental break and come back stronger than before. But yeah, man, good shit. So as always, we're gonna get out of here with some Astrobot and some metal. I love you all. I appreciate you all so much, man. Really. And Sal, you got some. If I don't have your address, I'm gonna get it from you because I gotta send you something. But guys, Silver Nexus, Geist, all you guys, it's time to cue the Astrobot and the metal, baby, because it is time to get out of here. Happy 2023, the launch of the PSVR2, baby. Woo! The best is yet to come, mark my words. Dan Kiefer, all of you guys, I want to wish you a Happy New Year. Of course, I'll see you before the new year. But last interactive chat of 2023, let's go, baby. The next time we see you on this show, it'll be 2024. Dan Kiefer, Scott the PSVR Game Cat for Life, Chrome Colossus, my dude, what is up, man? The Underground Game Cat, Elite Name Squad in the house, Subtle Eel, I still freaking love your name every time I see your name. You know what else? Another name I love is Melkaya, the Soul Reaving Game Cat. Let's go, baby, let's go. Silver Nexus, thank you so much. Oh God, I'm losing my voice over here. Silver Nexus, Guy Son fist bump to you. Over there says, bro, we need Bionic Commando in VR. I agree. Salvador, again, thank you for all your support, man. And thank you for the amazing guide that you sent me. It is awesome. I love it. I'm going to frame it. And it's beautiful, man. Mark Poppin, Pringles Leaf says, hopefully Vertigo 2 for 2024. Yes, absolutely. I'm expecting Vertigo 2 to be very soon. Very, very soon, in fact. Awesome Tatum, my dude, we need to jump back into Crossfire at some point, homie, and we need to maybe get in some breaches, homie. Whenever you got free time, let me know. Wayner the Gamer, happy holidays to you, my friend. Saint Nicholas Gamer, the holidays, Game Cat GG to you, my friend. Flippy Nuggets, Chef's Kiss, another name I absolutely love. Magnum Gaming, happy New Year to you, my friend. John Savino, he says, I want a juicy kiss. Oh, man. Jan Klassen, Happy New Year's to you as well. This is guys and girls. Living Legend said 2023 is not only one of the best years of gaming for VR, but for flat screen games too. 2024 is looking pretty good for flat screen gaming too, man. Can't wait. The only non-VR game that I will play, Final Fantasy Remake 7 Remake Part 2. Can't wait for that. The Game Cat Cowboy Dan. Yeah, good to see you, man. Game Cat Behemoth. Let's go. Behemoth hype. Sunshine, happy fun times. Old schooler in the house. So good to see you, man. Miss you, bro. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. Kino Dude. And next time I'll use mustard. Oh, what is up, dude? I love that name. You guys have the best freaking usernames ever. I love it so much. Your Long Shadows says, Gal signing off. Night cats, happy holidays. Nap whenever you can. That's right. A good cat nap is nigh. Steve IRE, Shady Waffles. Your fucking names, man, crack me up. Game Cat Photo Nutter. Just keeps going. It keeps going. Predment Idol. Bad Robo. Thanks so much, man. Joe. Snafu. Mike Wells. Ghost of Tsushima VR. God, I hope so one day. A perky Game Cat. All of yous, be good. Happy gaming. Happy New Year. Happy holidays. Happy all the things. I'll see you next time on this show in 2024.